pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You okay?
Yeah, I gotta go to. No, I'm not
Who passed away?
okay.
Good evening.
Okay.
I'll wait for everybody to sit.
Tom's coming back Thursday?
Thanks for coming. We have a big agenda, so we can get right started. Our first appointment is a joint meeting with the Public Safety Committee to discuss some updates on the Public Safety Complex cost proposal, and possibly some comments from the Historical Commission. So I'll turn it over to Charlie at this point.
Evening, everybody. Do you believe that we were appointed by the Board of Selectmen in August of 2011 to take and start this process? So we've been looking at this for over 4 years now. This is an update on the PowerPoint presentation. This update gives you more material based on where we're going with this. And it's going to, at the end, ask your group to basically endorse putting this at town meeting as a debt exclusion vote. And it's going to give you some numbers as to what it's going to cost to do this project. So at that point, what I'd like to do is get our design engineer, Curtis Edgin, up here so he can actually just go through the PowerPoint. And then from there, we'll take and answer questions and go from that.
Thanks, Charlie. A lot of the slides you're going to see here tonight are things you've seen before, but I didn't want to just jump right to the very end because there are some people that have missed the story along the way. So we're going to hit on some of the highlights. We're going to breeze through them. If you want to stop and talk about something, let me know. But I'm going to breeze through and we're going to get to more current content towards the later part of the presentation. As you know, the history of the public safety facility, of the present fire station, I should say, going back to 1863. 1927, it was discontinued as a school. 1946, Southampton wanted to raise the building. 1948, they decided to turn it into a fire station. 1971, some garages and office space. So you can see the transformation from the original school building to its existing conditions. And as you can see, the doors that were cut in the front on the right side, those are undersized for modern emergency apparatus. So you're buying special equipment. Unsafe firefighter circulation, inadequate door clearances. These are the things that the community really needs to be aware of, and you can't see it just driving by on the highway. So the turnout gear, the proximity to the emergency response vehicle, you can see that in the left-hand slide. Somebody slips and falls while they're putting on their turnout gear and the truck's moving, it's a recipe for disaster. It's a liability. There's tripping hazards. So a lot of the conditions that you're mostly familiar with, but for those who may not have seen it previously. Southampton's police department, it's in the old town hall building. They moved in 1972 with a couple of offices and continued to grow through the years. The structure lacks adequate, appropriate security design, has inadequate utility infrastructure, does not comply with current codes or standards, especially with respect to a police facility and detention, and creates liability for the town.
Just to add to that, as
Sir.
Somebody's been on the board a while, one of the OSHA studies, it passed OSHA because the windows were so leaky for air circulation. And there's been at times where you couldn't walk next to the building because bricks were falling off the facade. And if you stood at the right point in the back near the entrance to the police station, you could see through the chimneys because they had to be repointed. You could see sunlight coming through them. So it's a very, I mean, I've been down to the bowels of that building, and it's just amazing how old it is down deep inside. Some of the equipment, some of the electrical systems in the building is very antiquated.
Yeah, it's a great old building. It's served its purpose for a long time. Probably not appropriate for a police facility.
But on the opposite end of the scale, if you go up into the former attic, or the attic, it's this great, detail on the wood beams and stuff like that when it's open. I guess he used to play, is Mr. Frary here? No. So he used to play basketball.
That was town hall.
What's that?
Town Hall,
Used to play basketball
in Town Hall.
in Town Hall. I mean, it was wide open upstairs, and the building itself has some potential to be rehabbed for, some use for the town for general assembly or something, especially if there was some attempt to come back around and restore it to its former beauty that it has. I mean, there's a great, like I said, beams up in the attic. If you stripped away all the suspended ceiling and the new floor that was put in, you might see something that was quite spectacular.
Oh, absolutely. Great old building, but it's been around for a while. It needs some TLC at this point. And so our purpose is not really to attack that, but it's just to point out the deficiencies with respect to the public safety demands of the community. So the history, and you can see some of the shared office spaces, the kitchenette, which also serves as the EOC, the dispatch, things that have a great room for improvement. These buildings are both very inefficient to operate, too. Not only
There's also seasonal flooding, I think, in this
Correct.
department as well.
correct, so there are a lot of things that need to be addressed, but so operating costs are quite high on your square foot basis. You can see that just the infrastructure on charging stations, all those things that really have room for improvement. The boiler room, which also serves as the armory, the interview room, which is maybe one of the nicer rooms in the whole place, and the male/female lockers shared, nice arrangement, but probably not appropriate at this point. The booking area, you can see, it's not how a modern booking area is typically designed. The separation between the detainees and the booking officer puts him at a distinct disadvantage, I'll say. Also, your equipment is susceptible to damage from people that are not very happy to be there, guests. The PD garage, it's insufficient size to act safely as sally port. So while right now it might be able to pull in the car and do a little bit of maintenance, it does not function as a sally port. So that's what brought you as a town many years ago into evaluating what are some potential solutions, and then ultimately how we were hired last fall. There were site evaluations done around town. In the end, it was all winnowed down to 3 key sites, and then of those 3 key sites, the preferred site was identified as the existing town hall and fire station site. So you can see, it is centrally located. That's great. It helps with the NFP response times. It's good for insurance ratings. It meets the planning and zoning requirements. It will have some site development costs to provide infrastructure, a septic system, address the topography, as you're familiar with it, steps up the hill, addressing the access driveway. There is an adjacent wetlands that needs to be steered clear of, that's not available for development. It would have minimal impact to the current traffic patterns on the highway, on College Highway, and we do want to address with this project the unsafe current conditions where the site circulation, anybody coming to Town Hall or the Senior Center at the same time as emergency response vehicles are fighting one another. Not a real good condition that you want to maintain. So we want to go away from that. So as you can see, the apparatus apron and the town hall driveway being shared, the existing building, we're familiar with it, coming up the driveway, and as I mentioned, the town hall parking. So if you're leaving in a fire truck and somebody's coming to the senior center, you're going to pass one another as they're entering College Highway. You can begin to see the topography. You can begin to see the existing building, the original building, and its location on the site, and the wetlands kind of illustrated to the left. Some of the concerns that we noted in our evaluation of the facility were, obviously the modifications through the years. 1949, when they blew the front wall out and created overhead doors. 1971 additions. You can see some structural cracking along, multiple locations circled in red, and some of the other add-on features that have been installed throughout the years that perhaps work against that the integrity of the building. One of our biggest concerns, of course, is because we were hired for a public safety facility. Public safety facilities, by the code, are required, and they're considered Category 4 essential facilities. That means that fire, rescue, ambulance, and police stations down at the bottom are essential facilities. What does that mean? Well, if you look at non-essential up at the Category 1, is a low hazard to human life in the event of failure. That's a barn, all right? Category 2 is anything that's not 1, 3, or 4. All right, so that's most buildings that we're familiar with. Category 3 would be a substantial hazard to human life in the event of failures. What are those? Those are schools, those could be hospitals. There's a lot of things that fall into that Category 3. Category 4 is an essential facility. Means that if it fails, it's the last thing you want to have happen, all right? We are in the strictest category. By code, anything that's done for a public safety facility, whether you alter an existing building or construct a new building, has to be brought up to that category in structural capacity. And we work with our structural engineers. We understand what it takes to create that. On the other side, there are some remaining historical features left with that original
Does this building
building.
meet Code 4?
No. No.
Why doesn't it meet it?
Well, right now it's an unreinforced masonry building constructed in 1863.
And what does that mean? That makes it
First of all, from a seismic perspective, and we are in a seismic zone here, that it just does not, it would not withstand the forces required by the current code in a seismic event. I mean, that's the simple boiled down version
besides
of
an
it.
earthquake, any other reasons?
There's a lot of other environmental issues in there with respect to the HVAC, the heating, ventilation, the air conditioning,
The structure.
electric.
The structure.
Structure, it's just an unreinforced masonry building.
Okay.
So anyway, there are some nice features about the original building, you know, and there's no one denying that. And so the question becomes, here we are, we're sharing the site with the present fire station building. So the 4 preservation options that are really present for a facility like this is you can avoid it completely with the new public safety complex, and that'll result in a solution that may have poor traffic circulation, limited visibility, and awareness of public safety services. No identified use for the existing building, a high cost to renovate for other uses in order to meet the building code. Again, change of use or changing the size, increasing the size of the building, means you bring the facility up to the code for the intended use. So if it becomes a public safety facility, it comes to Category 4. If you're using it for a barn, it can stay at Category 1. So, and depending on what the use is, it's 1, 2, you know, it falls in that chart from before. So you can avoid it completely. Second option is to incorporate the existing fire station in the new complex. Well, following up on what I just said, if we do incorporate it as part of the complex, the building is not appropriately sized for the fire department apparatus. We know that from the beginning, which would be its best use when considering its location on the site. But it's extremely costly to reconstruct as an essential facility. Anything is possible at any time if you want to spend enough money to do it. So we looked at that option, and you'll see shortly some of the things we looked at. But we looked at, you know, what else can we do? Well, you can relocate the existing fire station to a new location, perhaps. It's costly, no identified need that we're aware of at this point. You may be able to offer the building for public purpose or relocation. Again, and I didn't come up with these. I worked with a preservation expert on many historic projects. This is basically the Department of Interior's criteria in evaluating facilities and how you deal with it, and we applied it to this site. And the fourth option is to raise the building and incorporate historical masonry detailing on the new facility. I'm not sure anybody is asking for that either. So we looked at it, you know, how can we be best neighbors to another facility on the, if we have to share the site? Well, modern public safety facilities, many of these, there's one that I did not do, is the Granby one in the bottom, but the rest of them, a combination of new and additions and new. Upper right, Milford was actually originally a horse carriage barn, and the additions to the right were done well, 8, 10, 12 years ago, I would say, we completed that project. But these are what modern facilities require. And so we met with the departments, we evaluated their present space needs, their proposed space needs, and we looked at the demographic of other towns of about 6,000 residents and came up with a program. The police department, you can see that it's about 5,400, it's a preliminary program. 5,400 feet, the shared space, about 3,800 feet, which includes the dispatch, the lobby, and a training area, as well as the fire department, about 8,500 feet. So you add that together, and that doesn't include your mechanical rooms and your circulation. So we applied a 15% plus or minus rule of thumb that we have seen in a lot of other projects, and you come up with a program space of a little over 20,355 square feet. Pretty straightforward. We started through late October, November, right after we were hired, and taking these program elements and trying to see what would fit on the site and how we could incorporate perhaps Concept 5 straight at the top actually was trying to reuse the existing apparatus as part of the fire department, but then we got into other more in-depth evaluation, obviously, of what the requirements are for essential facilities. And so looking around at where it might be sited, taking into account the wetlands, the topography, the desire to separate traffic patterns so your emergency vehicles are separate from the people coming to town hall. And just a handful of options here. This was one that was developed probably November, December-ish, where it was called Option B. And you can see that while it seemed to fit on the site, it fought with the existing fire station. The yellow arrows, there was a separation of emergency vehicles from that. Also, being able to loop around behind seemed to work. It was okay, but we kept looking at additional options of what could we do. Option C, you can see things are starting to firm up a little bit, but it's a pretty long linear building, and that's so that we could do the complete 360 drive around loop. But the problem with that is the building began to stretch and stretch and stretch. And that's great, but it takes up a lot of real estate and becomes quite costly. And we know from past experience that probably the best way to address this is to have an upper and a lower, especially with the topography that's leading in that direction, so you don't have to move as much earth. So, you know, we looked at that evaluation. You can see in this case that you're climbing a long way up to the apparatus bay so that you can do that loop all the way around. So it gets a pretty steep driveway on the right-hand side, which means there's a pretty tall retaining wall over towards the wetlands, which is not an inexpensive proposition. So some of the massing there, and we looked at that, and in an effort to make it a little bit more compact and make it programmatically it works better as a two-story solution, whether it's up or down, you know, from the ground floor up or from the ground floor down, working into the hill. We went past that, just a couple of options. This site plan was an option D, which now enabled the plan to tighten up a little bit, be a little bit more compact, so the footprint isn't quite as large. You would put your non-public spaces on the lower level, which are adjacent to the apparatus bay. A lot of your locker rooms and those types of things would be down there. There would be an opportunity to have a drill area behind the apparatus, And the main floor where the public would be in the upper level. Seemed to work. We tried to make it more compact, and you know, we continued in our efforts. So yeah, this is how option D might look. We started to incorporate some of the detailing from the original building just in these massing studies. These aren't overly detailed, but to show what might be possible on that site. As we progressed along, this is where we presently are, which was called option E. So left to right in this plan, it's more compact than those other options that you saw previously. It kind of extrudes back into the hill, going up and down in the plan, but it incorporates the multi-purpose training area. After we met with the Historic Commission, they wondered whether or not we might be able to create something like that on the main floor for the public and replicate some of the detailing, because at that point we weren't sure which way, you know, the project was going. We still aren't sure. We need to come to that conclusion. But so one of the things is typically that training facility would probably be downstairs, so that you, by balancing the footprint or the, if you have a 5,000 square foot apparatus bay and you're coming over 21,000 feet, that means you get about 16,000 feet of program space. Programs split up pretty well for the public area to be, you know, 7,500, 8,000 on top of 8,000. Stacks up really nicely. When you take a 1,000+ square foot element that was originally programmed for the non-public areas and bring it up to the main floor, your main floor is now 1,000 square foot bigger, and I have an extra 1,000 square foot downstairs, and oh, by the way, I have to make a foundation to support that additional 1,000. So the program grows, and you'll see the square footage is up a little higher than the 20,300. That's not where we want to go. So an upper level concept plan, just briefly, you would come in the yellow areas are shared. You come into a vestibule in the public lobby. Directly above that is the dispatch area. That they would be the greeter, especially in hours, off hours, if the police department was closed, if they were out on the road, not in regular office hours, or if the fire department was closed for the day, let's say evening hours or weekends. But there's always somebody there to greet you. And you have the ability to get to that public room or semi-public. One of the key things of that training area is it also serves as your emergency operations center. So your police, your fire, the dispatch, all working together with other departments in town in the event of an emergency. So that's a very important aspect of that room. Of course, most communities multi-purpose those types of places, and so if you have Girl Scouts needing a place, or if there's a CPR course or whatever, those are available, and they're monitored then by the dispatch as well. You know, they can always be the one that hands out the key or not. Lower level apparatus, you can see that the locker rooms, potential future bunk area. If you do go to 24/7, especially with EMS, bunk area. And we haven't differentiated the space. We just know what they take in square footage. We have a little bit of extra room down here because of that. There's a shared fitness room. The police is generally from the green line up, and from the green line down is the fire department.
Is there a need for an elevator?
I'm sorry? Yes.
Will there be a need for an elevator?
Yes, there is. Building code requires it. So let me see, did I jump 2 slides there? All right, so taking that more compact plan, we pushed it a little bit, we rotated it, I should say, and placed it back far enough away from the existing facility. And keep in mind that we have to maintain services while we construct this, so we just can't build it right on top of it, you know, if we even wanted to. So it's pushed back up the hill, but that means, if you can see the grading in the driveway there as you're marching up the hill, the further up the hill, so you're not digging as deep down into the hill, you're getting further back off of where you want to go from the street. The approximate elevation of the apparatus is around 108. The existing fire station is about 105. Actually, the grading on the right side here is outdated, but the labels are correct now. And the upper floor, where the dispatch, the meeting room, the police and fire department, public functions, would all be at around the 121 elevation. So it fits in nicely. You can see that you come in, there's about 13 spots right out front for public, and 7 for some officers, and 13 across the back. On the left-hand side for the PD vehicles coming and going. It's not a great separation between public and police private vehicles. Often the complaint that we see or the concern that we try to address in our public safety facilities are police can be sometimes unpopular. They don't like to have their personal vehicles intermingled in the public parking lot, because when you're walking in and out, sometimes people accidentally
But
get
what do
their...
they do now?
I'm sorry?
What do they do now? Is there, I
Well-
thought there was an officer in the room,
They're parked in the back of the building.
but they're in plain sight.
They're in my side.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the concern is that in many communities, people accidentally brush up against the officers' cars with their keys.
Has that happened over there yet?
Cars have been vandalized, yes.
Sorry to hear that, sorry.
A while ago, it was a long time ago, yes.
Okay.
Down on the fourth, zero, down.
But they could always park on the fire side, and the downside.
Right,
downside.
right. But what we try and do with planning is to separate those functions, you know. People go to the right places, and there's never any question then, or it eliminates many of the questions. So as we start to look at, how this option E might be developed, again, it's a little bit more compact. It's a 2-story solution on the left side. It's essentially a walkout basement, if you will, on 2 sides. And the other 2 sides back against the side of the earth would be your locker rooms and those places that don't need natural light. We tried to pick up on, show that it is possible to do some detailing and follow some of the cues from the original building.
Could you reuse, I mean, it's a
I'm sorry?
facade, could you reuse some of the old brick?
You could, but typically...
Just asking, I just.
No, we've done a lot of historic projects, and it ends up being more cost-effective and a better end product, especially given what needs to be done and how it needs to function, by finding a brick that's just a simple match. We just worked with a project with the National Park Service down at the Springfield Armory. They were quite involved, went back and forth, and in the end, they were satisfied with, it was a collaborative solution. This is just kind of another variation of that previous E scheme, the site plan. It's moved a little bit closer, which enables us, as we come closer to College Highway, to push it down lower. So you can see that the apparatus is around the 105 elevation, which matches around where the existing apparatus elevation is. So by bringing it forward, we can push it down and not have to carve into the hill as much or be on top of the hill. And it starts to separate the parking a little bit better on the PD side, and develops a little bit better area behind the apparatus for the on the fire side, and also starts to eliminate some retaining walls. We're able to pick it up with grading on the right side rather than retaining walls. So that being said, where are we at? Well, taking some other projects that we've looked at and done before and applying them to today's numbers, typically you're going to be in the 350 plus range. Our cost estimator that we use, have been using for quite a while, recently did a police station in Sudbury in the summer of 2014. It came in at $375 a foot. And so we were trying to get some preliminary budget numbers and apply them to the program square footage that we have right now for these preliminary plans. And again, we emphasize preliminary. Final designs are done later on whenever,
Curtis, Sudbury is near Boston, right?
Correct. So a little bit higher, the wage rates are slightly higher, but applying those, we took the program square footage, current construction costs, he said they're, 380 to 400. We know right now that construction costs are increasing at a pretty decent pace, from all our other projects, not only ours, but other firms that we track what's going on in the industry. Construction costs are rising. It's a safe statement to make. So using that $380 to $400 a square foot, we just applied a construction cost at, the range would be 8.8 to 9.2 for the construction, the building itself, the bricks, the mortar, the wiring, the ceilings, the cells, the apparatus, doors, soup to nuts for the building. You have to look at, though, there's a total project cost, which includes soft costs. Those can range from 15 to 30%, depending on, there's an OPM. Every project over $1.5 million with mass construction, public money, requires an owner's project manager. And associated with that are the clerk fees. Quite often, those two roles are intertwined, and I think that that's usually where the community gets the best value when they need to engage in OPM, is to try and negotiate the clerk fees as part of the OPM services. You have AE fees, the architects, the engineers, and the entire design team. You have furnishings and equipment, carry a number of 750. That number can go up, it can go down. The problem is what's included. Is it all new dispatch equipment, or is the dispatch equipment that you have okay?
It's just been all upgraded about 4 or 5 years ago. So I would assume the dispatch equipment would go into the new building.
Exactly. So those types of questions need to be asked. But that's a typical budget, how a budget is arrived at. You take all these soft costs. We applied 20% of $9 million. It's kind of in the middle of where the construction range was recommended to be, and it's in the middle of the soft costs. So you can see when you put all those together, you end up with a building with a total project cost of about $10.8 million. If you combine that cost with other potential users, perhaps maintaining the existing fire station, which is about 1,200 feet, using an analysis that was provided, a report that was independently prepared for the Southampton Historic Commission, we took those numbers and put what it would take to maintain the existing fire station in its present location. That's not upgraded, that's just, you can see what it is. And the cost of that just by itself in the report comes out to be anywhere between $167,000 to $257,000. Now, they were very clear in that report to say that it applies to the structural elements only. I'm not sure if those numbers reflect prevailing wages, and I'm not sure about the brick infill to reconstruct that front facade for anywhere between $10,000 and $12,000 seems quite ambitious to me. It's not a budget that I would propose to you. But those numbers were provided in an independent report. You need to also consider the demolition of additions. The question was, will the building stand by itself? Absolutely. That building could stand by itself if you took the wings off. Their engineer reviewed it, reported it, confirmed it. The question is, what do you need to do with it for the next use? First, you have to identify what the use is, and that'll tell you how much you have to spend to get you to that point.
So it has to be brought up to all
Current codes. Correct.
A question.
Sir.
Sorry, Chris. I thought the demolition of the additions was included in the original project scope of the complex.
No.
No?
No,
Is that what we talked about?
We did.
At the last meeting, I thought,
We left that as a separate element. Our charge was public safety. Now, if that becomes part of this project, obviously, we're going to need to address that and shift those costs into there. But
as of this proposal, they're not.
our charge was a cost-effective, appropriate solution for the town for public safety. So if we were to maintain that existing fire station for I'm not sure what, and using the numbers that are there from a seismic, not a seismic, I was just reading the retrofit line, excuse me, but from an engineering, a structural perspective, adding demolition, I don't even want to put a number on it, but I can tell you, I don't even want to put a number on it. It would need toilet facilities. It needs doors and windows.
So wait a minute, you're saying what you're trying to do is maintain the existing fire station for what use, though?
I'm not sure. It was, we were provided a report and.
Okay, so
and
that's
we-
beyond, isn't that beyond your scope of,
Well, we were actually requested to.
I'm just saying, it's beyond the scope of what you guys were originally asked for, you were asked for.
Yeah, well, yes.
I just wanted to make, so we're
The
just.
reason this is up here is because we were asked to consider downsizing the public safety facility, or it was suggested to us that that might be an opportunity, and utilizing the existing building as
Because what
as
you're-
the training center. So if we
Because
do.
you still need, because when you're doing this, you're confusing those that may be watching what we're doing here, because this doesn't address the old town hall.
No, not at
Doesn't
all.
address that at all,
No.
which is probably not a fit for to have a police department in the basement of such.
Correct.
So this may be a confusing topic.
Okay.
When you're really trying to talk about what the mandate was, the original mandate back in
Right.
2011 for the public safety complex.
Yes.
So now you bring in a different discussion, because people will say, well, geez, if we just drop $300,000, we're all set, we don't need a public safety complex, because we could just fix the old fire department. Because that's what you could say, you could make an argument that you just said.
That was, well, that would be
Very simple,
not
but
not a fully informed argument. How's that?
someone could say that.
Someone could, people can say and do say a lot of things that need to be backed up, so,
That's why it gets, this discussion gets kind of
yeah.
complicated.
But anyway, one of the things we were asked to look at when we met with the Historic Commission was to consider the possibility of reducing the size of the public safety facility and incorporating the original building as the training, room.
That's a separate,
Just the training center.
but what you're doing is you're, one of the things I found out when you're sitting up here is that you gotta make decision points as clear as possible. Any muddying or any doubt usually shoots down anything, any idea in this town. So you have to be very clear what you're doing, and I think you may be well-intentioned to have this additional task added on, but I think it would end up muddying the understanding of what you're trying to really do. And I think, in my opinion, Madam Chair, I think this slide actually is not appropriate for what this committee was set out to task for to do in 2011. Because now they're looking at rehabbing a town structure, which is not part of the initial mandate. As much as you want to, and we can talk about this, but I think it just confuses the discussion.
I don't disagree with what you're saying, but we did ask the Historical Commission to figure out how much the building could sustain and to have a study done, which they did. And so in order for this nice man to move forward, he needs to explain this part because they're all related.
Yeah, I think one of the issues that the committee looked at in the Historic Commission is that this is sitting smack in the middle of where this building's going. And one of the decisions that needs to be made is, do we tear it down and redesign it a little differently, or do we keep it there? And
I'm just going to go back in time for a second.
okay,
And-
let me hold on a second. And one of the tasks of the Historic Commission was try to find out if it was structurally feasible to keep there. That was the first task. They came back and says, yes, it is indeed. So that at that point, they went to the CPA, talked about funding. So it's an integral part that when it gets to the town meeting, the people are going to want to know
But it's-
what the options are, whether they were tasked with doing that originally or not. It's an integral part of the project, and people are going to make that decision based
Well,
on
I
all
would-
the
I would-
information.
All due respect, totally disagree.
That's fine.
Because it was decided in 2011
Mhm.
that at the current select board at that time, that the current fire station is not appropriate
For a fire station.
for a fire station, period.
That's agreed.
So you have $750,000 worth of equipment in a building that is not structurally sound. God forbid, we have a seismic event, and during that seismic event, all our equipment is lost.
I don't think anybody
Okay.
disagrees with that.
So, but my point is I think that in having been on the board and having been on the committee in 2011 that was tasked with this is a typical thing that will happen in this town is that it will drain away from the original discussion of the original task of the committee. It is a good question to ask, but it distracts from the true need, which is a function. I live in an 1844 farmhouse. I'm all for preserving the past, but our task and the task of this committee is function. It's a function to house the safety equipment. And to preserve stuff is great, but the main task of this was to preserve the function of EMS in an unsafe situation right now. And that's why I say, this is where it gets kind of muddy and it gets kind of foggy, and the discussion gets laid down. Well, why don't they just, I've been asking questions, because these are the questions people are gonna ask. You know, can't you reuse the bricks? Can't you reuse those things? And the truth is, I know the answer, you can't. But those are the questions people are gonna ask.
Can't reuse it for what?
For the new building, you can't reuse it.
And I think
That's really, that was the
Those are
intent.
the reasons I was asking those questions. There was
That's
no
really
other
the
reason.
intention, where we were trying to go with this. is
Right.
We cannot use that existing building for public safety, and then I'll qualify it, because I've said it all along. Anything is possible if you want to spend enough money to do it. So, yes, it could be. However, programmatically, you would not want it to be a separate structure from the public safety facility, because as I mentioned a little while ago, it also serves as emergency operations center. It's not just a room that's used on occasion, and it's an integral part of a modern public safety facility is to have an emergency operations center. I'm not sure if you want to spend enough money, and you had it to spend, and you wanted to improve that building out front, absolutely it could be done, but programmatically it doesn't work with how police and fire, and that's where our expertise is.
Well, that's what we knew. We knew that in 2011. I mean, we didn't have to have you guys study it. We knew
Well,
that.
we were asked to look at that, and
Okay.
so we
Okay, so-
put it.
Let's see the rest, can we see the rest of this before we
Yeah.
get too off track?
So you can see that, as you start adding the cost of the public safety facility to costs which were loosely identified as $500,000, your total project cost continues to grow higher and higher. And I'm not sure that was our goal here. We wanted to do something that was most cost effective. So answering your question. So that being said, as we know, there is not currently any federal or state grant funding available. There hasn't been for quite some time. There's always talk that people would love to do it, but there's, that's not our realm to, that's a political thing. And typically what we see are the recommended local funding options. I mean, yes, people hear the word override. This is not an override. The suggested way is a debt exclusion, which is, it means that the debt retires after the project is paid for. And as you'll see in the next slide, the town is currently retiring some other current debts. And this was prepared, and Charlie, maybe you want to weigh in on this, but you can see by the time this would hit, that it would be FY 2017, the tax rate impact on the right hand is $1.62, including the Norris roof and the Hampshire Regional debt, which would all be ongoing. You can see that 2017, Norris roof goes away, but the Hampshire Regional continues on until 2021. And then at 2021, it's its own debt. But the impact on the taxes from the new public safety facility, and again, by Unibank, I don't profess to run these numbers, identified about a 98-cent FY 2017 cost. And so that applied to the average home assessed at $253,708. That's the FY 2015 Southampton average home would equate to $248 a year, $248.63 per
the
year.
average homeowner?
Average home.
And how much is the debt exclusion that we're gonna lose, $1.55, is that it?
I don't, again, that stuff
I'm
is
just looking
provided
at
to me by
that,
Unibank, and
Does Heather have the numbers? Where'd she go?
And that's between 21 and 37, so that's, whatever, 26 years? No, that's not 26. 2016.
it'll be 16 years after 21.
Yeah.
Standing by itself, it'll be 16 years.
So you're saying the debt exclusion would be for 16
It's
years?
a 20-year debt.
It's a 20-year debt, But
but
you have
it's
to,
overlapping.
if you have to appreciate the fact that, let's say that this gets approved
17.
at town's meeting.
Yeah.
The first year's debt is probably going to be somewhere around 800,000 for your architectural engineering design. That's the only money that's going to be borrowed. So there's going to be that year where we're not looking at borrowing the 10 million because we won't be constructing it at that point. So there's always this delay and stuff, and there's always the fact that we have to consider that the interest rates fluctuate a little bit back and forth. With a project this size, you're going to see this fluctuation based on what's going to happen with the tax rate. But a good working number is $250 a year for the average home.
For 20 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got to find out how much we're losing on the HRS and the town share, see if it offsets it, you know.
I think if you look at that, I mean, you're looking at the roof of the North School, that's like 2 more years, and then that's gone.
But the average taxpayer is going to say, how much am I going to get my taxes decreased when the roof goes off the debt? And how much will I get it when the,
I think that's the right column.
yeah, well, that's what I'm wondering, is that accurate?
It was prepared with your town administrator and your financial advisors.
Okay,
Yeah, that did not come out of Curtis's outfit, that came directly
Oh,
out
okay.
of,
so if she was here, we could.
yeah. In
It'd be a
fact,
lot
she
easier to
emailed,
sell if we say it's going down this much and it's going up that much, so the net difference. Is that the net difference that you calculated, the $250?
That we took, those were the financial advisor's numbers,
Heather,
and they were applied to the average home.
we have questions regarding the numbers.
For me.
For you?
I'm not the treasurer or the accountant.
Did you have to, so the question is that, I think John has some questions he has for you regarding the debt exclusion.
Yeah, when we lose the debt on the Norris School roof, is that going to save us how much?
So we met with Clark Rowell, what was it, last week, so
Okay.
last Thursday. Clark Rowell is our financial advisor for the town. And what he did was we sat down with him, myself, Donna, and Vicky, so the accountant and treasurer. We had a discussion pertaining to, how different projects would affect us over the next several years. One of the benefits we have is the fact that we do have 2 debts wearing off. 2017, I believe, I don't know if it might be fiscal 18 at that point.
20.
For the Norris School roof will wear off. And then 2021, I think it is, give or take, is for the Hampshire Regional debt.
Yeah.
So that one, we currently pay $310,000 a year. Norris School, we pay about $138,000, $140,000 a year plus interest on both of those. So how he did it was he said, okay, well, if you look at, the potential of adding, you want to make it as feasible as possible. So if you say adding $1 to the tax rate, he actually incorporated in these debts going forward. Remember, it's like taking a mortgage or anything else. You have a period of time to pay something back. So he figured, and his guess was at 10 million, because that's the number I had in my head at the time. I said, okay, $10 million over the course of 20 years. You adjust the tax rate initially, and then you're able to compensate further along as you go, because you have other debts wearing off. So as they wear off, this kind of takes over the place. So the tax rate will essentially go up once initially, and then pretty much stay the same as you go forward as these debts drop off.
So what's the initial
It looks like $1 on the tax rate.
dollar on the tax rate? And that incorporates the debt that's going to be falling off. So overall, an extra $1. They're not going to save when the other debt goes off and then get kicked up a higher amount when the new debt goes on. It's going
No.
to, it's going to flow.
Yeah, so
So-
it's there's different options you can do things, you can wait several years to be able to do it, but the question is, what does he recommend? And his recommendation is if you're gonna do it now, they initially put it on the tax rate, and as the other debts wear off, he's incorporated the costs into those pieces.
Okay.
And please note that I'm not the accountant or the treasurer, so I'm doing the best understanding of this from my
I think
seat.
that's a speech that we're going to have to refine for the town meeting and know those numbers 100%.
well, we're already off by 800,000, because
Yeah.
they're basing it on 10,000,
10 million,
10
yeah.
million. Okay? But as you know as well as I do, with the interest rates changing back and forth, and the fact that you're still looking at $1, you're probably only looking at another 10 cents at the most going around.
Problem is, interest rates are so low now, they're not going to go lower much.
Well, you see, that's the risk we run. If we don't proceed now, the cost of construction is going to keep going up. We have no idea what the interest rates are going to do. So waiting until we run out of one of these debts, we may end up eating it paying for it at the other end of it.
Yeah, it's all part of what we have to inform the public on.
Yeah, so, and as, I've been the chairman here since this started, and it's been quite the long road trying to sort this out, but I'm also a taxpayer in town, and I'm not looking to increase my personal taxes any more than anyone else.
We all agree with you. Can I ask a question, Curtis? From the meeting, I forget, but the 10,000,008, what version of the building was that?
The version E.
Option E, okay. And that was a two-level pushback. Now,
169 square feet.
yeah, there was another version which was one level, and actually it was pushed forward more. Did we cost out those? I don't remember from the meeting if we had costs on the others.
It's by square foot, it's 300.
Yeah, but if you have 2 stories and an elevator versus one level and less excavating, that has a dramatic impact.
I think it still had an elevator.
Well, the one-story solution did not. but
Right.
That was offset by the larger footprint.
Well, that's what I'm asking. Is it an offset? 'Cause an elevator's got, what, a couple $100,000?
Yeah,
So is this the least expensive viable option?
this is the most cost-effective, given, instead of building across and having to create a
Right.
terrace, a flat terrace for a larger footprint, we're able to have a more compact footprint and use the topography to stack. And
So the excavation is less
From
than,
from past experience, that's a more cost-effective solution for us.
okay.
We're also looking at a building that we want servicing the town for the next 40 to 50 years.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I just want to, excuse me, Chief. I just want to say one thing. I think we're all in agreement. We want to move forward with this. But I just want to just recap this building. As chairman, actually, at the time, we considered rehabbing this. We were either renovate or detonate was the saying that Batchelder and I came up with. And there was a lot of questions. Well, what are we going to do with the old town hall? What are we going to do with the old town hall? We didn't have the answer. And we still don't have the answer for the old town hall. But if we had waited to get the exact answer for the old town hall, this would not have happened. This building would not exist. You can't wrap up all the answers. You know you need something for the safety and the well-being of the town, and that's a public safety committee building. The answers for the old town hall are still unanswered. The answers, with all respect for the old fire station, are unanswered. And I think they will remain unanswered until we come up with a viable solution that's available to the town. The main task of all of this is to maintain EMS, preserve the equipment, and get a public safety complex that is built of this century and that provides for the town for the next, like you say, 40 to 50 years. That's the task. The answers to those other things are going to have to take more conversation, and I hope that does not cloud or fog the decision-making to move forward with the public safety complex. That's all I have to say.
If I may?
Yeah.
Obviously, we've been watching this and trying to evolve it. I think what the select board needs to do, this is Charlie talking, after town meeting, and this is moving forward, the select board should establish another committee. That committee should evaluate the old town hall, it should evaluate the old firehouse, and it should evaluate the fire station on Bleemer Road, and give it about a year for directions that come up. Don't forget, even as we move forward with this project, we're utilizing the present fire station. We have to utilize it until the new building is up. So we have a window here of a year or two before we are actually moving out of that building.
This decision doesn't condemn the current structure, is what you're trying to say.
That's right.
And that's what I'm trying to say.
We're leaving that.
Right.
The first thing we heard was from the Historic Commission, please don't tear this building down. And we've honored that. We've stepped away from that building and designed everything away from that building. The second thing we did was try to incorporate its design into the new structure to honor the heritage of the town in that area. We were charged with that from the beginning, trying to make these pieces come together. But you're absolutely right. If we wait and try to get answers to those other questions, we are not serving the public.
Just the one thing that we did identify is that question which would come up, is why can't we use the existing building as part of the new public safety complex? That was part of our process, is to identify, can it or can't it? It's pretty clear that it can't be unless you, it's just not a cost-effective solution, and it's not appropriate. Let's put it that way. Yeah, the only reason I'm hedging on that is anything is possible given enough money. But programmatically, it doesn't work.
So,
I think the other key question that was identified in the process is, can the building be saved or not? Because if it couldn't be saved, you have different plans up there right now, maybe. But now we know it can be saved, and that's another process, like you're saying, maybe another committee. But we had to come to that decision before we can go ahead with this one. So I think two key decisions, like.
So at this point in time, this is our projected schedule. And as you can see, we are now into the February-May public discussion regarding the project. We're going to open up some meetings to try to let the general public meet with us to just discuss it. And obviously, we have to go in front of town meeting. What we need at this point is, we're a subcommittee of the Board of Selectmen. We need to know if the Board of Selectmen is going to endorse an article at town meeting for a debt exclusion on this program.
So before we make that decision, I would just like to hear any comments that the Historical Commission may or may not have before the board decides to take a vote.
May I ask one favor?
Yes, sir.
May I shut this down
Yes,
so that it's just not sitting here
yes.
going mental on its own? Because it's been known to do that.
Are we gonna need that back up? Do you just want to minimize it so we can't see it? Is that,
I was going to shut it right down.
do you think we'll need that? Do you-
I don't need it.
Okay.
Done, you think? No, I don't think so.
Thanks, Charlie.
No problem. This does work better with PowerPoint, though, trying to explain this because it's such a large project.
Didn't you ever hear, Charlie, don't pull by the cord?
It's a public safety thing, isn't it?
It is.
That's all.
Watch me kill myself at the podium. I'll just take, yeah, I'll take the podium. I'm watching you, Bob.
Just generally, I'd like to address Selectman McDougal's comments about muddying up the situation here. Personally, I don't feel that it's being muddied up for two reasons. One is that the town and the select board passed a master plan which said that it was interested in preserving historic properties, National Historic District. Number two, when this committee approached CPC, I was not a member at the time, but I've done some investigating since then, and got $37,000 of CPC money. One of the caveats that CPC brought forward at that time was that the study should include and pay attention to the fact that this structure, the current fire department, is in a historic district, and one of the caveats was that whoever did the study would take that into consideration. So, and quite frankly, I looked at the contract that was written for Curtis's firm, and I can't blame them at all, because none of that was written into the contract. I don't know who messed that up, but it's not in there. So I don't see that this is being muddied up. I think this should have been, from day one, a consideration, and was not. And so thank God that we stepped in, because now it is a consideration. The second point I want to
When you
make
say
is,
it's a consideration, what do you mean by consideration? A consideration?
I will have Don,
Well,
I will have Don tell you what.
I just want
what we
to
would like
clarify, is it a consideration that this structure, the old fire station, be the public safety complex?
No.
Okay, I just want to hear you say it, because that's what I'm worried about being
It
money.
is a consideration that this structure should be used as a part of the public safety complex. One of the reasons we got involved in doing an independent study was that it was said in the beginning that the structure was not sound and therefore should be torn down. We got involved, we did an independent study. The study said it is sound. By investing some money in it, it can be used. And Don will go in further as to what we would like to see it used as. Here's another point. You can look at this building, you can look at the adjunct fire station, and abandon this building, and abandon that one, and abandon Town Hall. And I can guarantee you, I've been through this before, I went through it with the Methodist Church, that 5 or 10 years from now, when it comes time to do something with this structure that has been standing there abandoned, it is not going to happen.
But I just wanted to counter that point. This building was abandoned. This building was costing the town $50,000 a year in maintenance fees. We, as selectmen in 2005, recognized that, and there happened to be a grant, again, $50,000, that said we could look at the possibilities for doing something for the building. It's because of that grant, we are now standing in a heated room in this building, which is the best thing for the town. And my vision is that at some point, I'm not saying knock down any structure or abandon any structure, but we may not have the resources at this time to do all the things we want to do for everything that we want to do.
I'm going to preempt what Don is
But
saying.
you know what I'm saying, Bob. I think
Yes,
we're on the
do.
same page.
Yes, I do, and yes, and there was money invested in a rehabilitation of this building, and it was put to use. And that's great, and that's the way it should.
We could do
it
that
should happen.
again. We can do that
For
again.
what purpose? We have an opportunity here. We have an opportunity to use the building for a purpose, an education. What we're going to advocate here
What
is
Don's
that it
gonna
be
tell us,
used for
okay.
education, and
Okay.
use the monies that, the 1,000 square feet, you can call it $380 a square foot, we're really talking $500 a square foot. $500,000 could be, I mean, it's a wash. I mean, I'm oversimplifying what I'm saying here, what
Okay.
they're saying here, is that $500,000 taken out of a new building and put into an old building is well spent. Because 5 years from now, that same $500,000 will not go into that building, and you'll be hard-pressed to find a use for it.
One of the things I just want to comment on is that I've been told by people that worked in the building, the old fire station, that the foundation was turning, that the foundation was, now, the study has shown otherwise, but that was what I was told, is that the foundation of the building itself
Yeah, I was
was
told that
unstable.
too.
Okay,
I was
so
told
this,
that too, and I didn't believe it.
okay, well, I didn't know until, I mean, I'm not a structural engineer, I'm just a doc. I don't do buildings, okay?
I'll step away and let Don tell you what we're proposing here, and then a decision's going to have to be made.
Good evening. I'm Don Warren, and I live at 230 College Highway. And I'm on the Southampton Historical Commission. As Bob mentioned, we did hire Hill Engineers from Dalton, accredited architectural and engineering firm, to take a look at the building, and they did do that. And they did give us some preliminary numbers on what it would take to meet the current seismic codes and regulations necessary to bring that building up to a Category 4. And what we're basically talking about is the original schoolhouse, which has about a 1,200 square foot footprint. And the training portion, the allotment for training space in the new facility is approximately 1,000 square feet. And our thought was, inasmuch as we do have a mandate to try and preserve or rehabilitate or repurpose historic landmarks here in town. Why couldn't we take and rehabilitate that existing schoolhouse so that it could function as the training space, and thereby reduce the required number of square feet that had to go into the new structure. So in a sense, we saw that as being revenue neutral. It's actually, if you take the numbers that we've got and recognizing that that is preliminary, we were looking at roughly $330 a square foot, where the new proposal has allocated over $400 a square foot for the space in the new building. So, but the extra benefit is that if we did do this, there's a very good chance that historic preservation money could be used to help defray the expense of bringing the existing schoolhouse up to code and making it suitable so it could be used as a viable training space as part of the new complex. So you're reducing the size of the new building you're putting up. There'll be some savings from that. You take a historic landmark and you refurbish it and you repurpose it for the training necessary, and you have the extra benefit of being able to get some, hopefully, federal funding and state funding, historic preservation money to defray some of that expense. So it could possibly be a saver, not a huge saver because we're only talking 1,200 square feet, but it's not going to be an extra burden on the town or on the project itself. So that's a point that we wanted to make, which I think is relevant for the time.
Don, I have a question. When you talk about restoring the building, now when they do restoration work on the schoolhouse that's in Coney Park, they have to hire certain carpenters to come in. When they do the shake roofing, they had to hire a certain person to come in with a certain skill set. When you talk about restoring to historical standards, as well as getting to Category 4, how do you mix that together so that you're actually perhaps using historical elements and meeting the current codes? Is that possible to do?
Well, this, again, is a preliminary study.
Okay.
So numbers that were prepared came from historical data that Hill got from looking at other projects that had been done. They also got that from National Park Service, who maintains files on a lot of the major restoration projects that they've been involved in. So, and that's not unlike the numbers that you saw here for the cost of building the new complex. Nobody sat down and done a line-by-line estimate of how much it's going to do to put this brick in and that 2x4 and this girder and all that sort of stuff. They're taking statistical data that's recent and current and putting some numbers together. That's essentially where the numbers, similar process, only on a much smaller scale.
But when you use the word restore, I'm thinking that what they have to do for that schoolhouse is very specific to get it to.
Also, the other
So like
answer to
Sturbridge
that is that the schoolhouse had to be done with CPC money.
And it has to look like Sturbridge Village. It can't look like, it has to look exactly the same sort of skill set.
It has to be, at the time, and the CPC rules have changed a lot since that first happened, okay? But at the time, in order to secure CPC money, we had to meet the requirements to do, number one, a restoration, and to do a restoration that was in keeping with a restoration, okay? That's loosened up a little bit in the 5 or 6 years.
It's not as rigid, so say.
So the point you're making is because CPC money was used and not town money, or it would have been the same thing if it was grant money, there wasn't any town money to use. Because CPC money was used on that, it was very restricted. That's a little more recent.
Okay.
Well, that's basically the point that I wanted to make, and unless you have some questions, but we don't see this as being a cost increaser. We see it as being, realistically, I think it can be revenue neutral. Theoretically, right now, it's actually a cost reducer.
So if you're looking at making that its own separate entity, who takes responsibility for maintaining the building?
Should be part of the project.
But would you expect the police department to maintain it, the fire department to maintain it? Like, which department takes control of that?
It would be for their use, it would be for a training facility for police, fire, and public. It would be a public safety complex. It would be a standalone building, the way I envision it, and Don does, a standalone building as part of the public safety complex. Whoever is responsible for the new building is also responsible for a restored old building, used as a classroom.
Don, would you want us to give you the building to your commission? You guys can have the building? Would we?
For what?
Well, I mean,
See, this is where we get in, that's why I say 5 years from now, this is gonna be the bigger problem than it is today. For what?
It just seems to me that it may be more cost-effective to have that building located within a central public safety complex, because now you have to heat a single building, and you have to have electricity to a single building, and you have to have telephones to a single building. And although I would like to save all of the buildings because I think they're beautiful and it's a great idea, and maybe in this one area of the conversation it's cost-effective, but in the long run, I really don't think that all of the other parts of it are going to save the town any money.
And I don't know if saving the town money is the key here. Let me ask you a question, Curtis. As I've looked at that chart many times on the categories, if that building was restored as 2 big meeting rooms, to me, it's going to be like a category 2.
Well, it's interesting what I just heard and what I read from the Hill report. Number one, cost, I'm not here to debate the validity of the numbers. You can draw your own conclusions. What I will say is, in order for it to be used as a large public space, a meeting room, a training room,
Something like this.
right, a room like this, and how does one go about doing, the report doesn't talk about how one goes about reinforcing an unreinforced masonry building built in 1863. Typically, that's done with shear walls. How are shear walls constructed? Typically perpendicular to the exterior walls. When you start doing that in a room like this, your room is no longer a functional meeting room. It's a series of small spaces that have other walls at perpendicular, constructed perpendicular to the exterior walls. So while there are placeholders in that report, the applicability for what you're suggesting as a public meeting room, besides the programmatic challenges of why an emergency operations center would want to be enforced standalone separate, even if you wanted to reinforce it, and could do it cost effectively. Those numbers that you presented at $300 some odd a square foot don't include, and the last statement in that report says, oh, by the way, this is just for structural issues. It does not address plumbing, heating, electrical. It didn't say what it didn't address, it just said what it does address. What you need to do is add all those other elements into it. That building needs toilet facilities if it's a freestanding building used as an emergency operation or training facility. It needs a heating system, as you mentioned. All those things that get added to it, and the cost to do that, I question the $10,000 to $12,000 placeholder from that report to reconstruct that front facade. That's the number. We used your numbers. And the ability to reconstruct that so that it looks like the 1863 structure. Everybody saw what the picture was in 1863 and the picture next to it with the garage doors. If you can get from where we are now to there for $12,000 on that front facade, my hat's off to you. I'm not going to stand behind those numbers. I have to stand behind mine. I can't just write a report.
No, but would you stand behind $500 a square foot?
Absolutely.
Sure. And that's what you're gonna put into the 1,000 square feet in the new building.
Really? We ran my numbers were presented in the thing. I'm not here to debate that. I'm just saying that the appropriateness of that as a freestanding building programmatically does not work for a public safety facility. It's not what you would endeavor to do if you were starting from scratch. Regardless whether or not that building was there to make it a freestanding element. I'm not going to debate your numbers.
Does the board,
Oh, I think you are.
does the board have any other questions that would change?
I think you need to finish the sentence. You can't
Okay,
go
so
ahead.
I would like to ask the board at this point if there are any other questions they would like to ask in order to make a decision tonight.
I would like to ask one other question. Don, I get what you and Bob have come from, and I appreciate your passion for what you're doing to preserve our heritage in our town. I get that, I really do, and I support you in your mission with your commission on what you're doing, and I'm afraid I don't have the answers that you want right now for what you're looking for. But I do know that as a selectman, I have to look at the whole picture. And I'm not saying tear the building down. I retain some hopefulness that we'll find some way to use the building. Now, hear me out, the building is still standing, right? It's still there. Even if when we build a new public safety, it's still gonna be there. And it doesn't have to be a Category 4 building if it's used for safety. I mean, we could use it for other functions. Maybe we can get a grant from Pioneer Valley Planning Commission about other uses. One of the things they talked about is a shared space here for commercial space. They were talking about renting out rooms in this building for lawyers and attorneys and whatnot. Maybe there's some other way to keep the building meaningful and useful for the citizens of the town. But in my opinion, knowing what I've listened to, I don't know if it has an appropriateness in going forward with the public safety complex. And again, Bob, I'm just being very honest and straightforward. It's my job as an elected official to look at the big picture, but I'm also want to let you know, I'm extending a hand. I don't want to leave this on a bad note, that I want to support you guys and what you want to do, and if there's anything I can do to help with the future of the building, I'm here to do that. But I think the main course of why we're here is to really sort of protect EMS for our town and protect the equipment for our town with the best structure possible. And when I was part of the Public Safety Committee, I went to the other towns. I went to Granby. I went to South Hadley. They got these beautiful structures, and it's like, why can't we have that here as well? And they were able to preserve those older structures in our town in Granby and whatnot. But right now, I think the task at hand is to move forward to protect EMS for our town, and that someday we'll solve the problem of what we can do best for that town, what we can do best for the old fire station.
I hope you will embrace that bigger umbrella.
I always try to, you know me, Bob, I always try to. I always look at the bigger picture, and I'm not here to condemn
Well, I think
anything.
we're looking at the big picture for us is the opportunity is now, the opportunity won't be there when you've got the facility already put up.
But there may be other
If you
opportunities,
can
Don.
reduce this footprint of the new facility and utilize some of that money to upgrade the old one, plus capture some historic funding that you wouldn't have access to if you build a brand-new structure from the ground up.
But there may be another role for the old fire station. There may be another role.
Can I comment?
Thank you, sir.
John?
Yeah, just a question on, because like I told you before, I support keeping the building. But I mean, we've got CPA money, the CPC is willing to look at that. I mean, the money they're willing to put in there, you could do the whole outside and make it original and just keep the inside like it is for now. It'll be structurally sound, it'll look pretty. Up at the university, they did that to the chapel. It was falling down, they did the outside, and they left the inside until they had money to finish the inside. So you can structurally reconstruct the outside, make it a valuable asset, and then work on what's needed for the inside. Because I can't support making it an integral part of the complex. It just doesn't make sense.
I'm a member of the CPC committee,
Yeah.
but I would not entertain any ideas to go spending their money without the rest.
Right, you're working with Virginia and everybody, yeah.
So to count on CPC,
Yeah. I know they said they were willing to listen and talk to you on it.
I'm going to take Robert Floyd and Mrs. Walunas, and then I would hope that the board was ready to make a motion.
What kind of motion are you looking for?
Robert Floyd, 15 East Street. Speaking tonight as the town moderator. It's been very interesting, a lot of hard work from everyone. I want to put some reality. We have an annual town meeting in 6 weeks tonight. We have to have that warrant out there in 4 weeks. And there seems to be some indecision this evening, and there's only 3 of you. I'd like you to consider whether you're going to consider this to be part of an annual, if you approve it, or if you want to wait, let all the parties talk a little more, and have a special town meeting. And a special town meeting might only work, not in the summer. A lot of people are away. Second week in September. I'm just putting 4 corners to consider an option. Because the idea is you don't want to be thought of as rushing to judgment, or this being an alley-oop pass. So for the best chances for this to pass, you really want to think about the options.
This, I don't think we're going rushing. This is 4 years.
Right. Mrs. Walunas?
Tammy Walunas, 298 College Highway. Looking at the Labrie Field, there's going to be another section of that needed very, very soon, a pavilion. What, has anybody looked at possibly taking this and moving it over? And that way there you've got a beautiful building right there that's ready to be used. And that way there it's on a park. It's helping out the park commission. You're helping possibly CPC renovate that park and get it up and running so that we can actually use it.
It's certainly something that we can think about and discuss, but I don't think we can make a decision about that tonight. I would accept a motion one way or another from the board. Either you'd like to endorse an article on the annual town meeting in support of the public safety complex.
I'd make a motion to endorse presenting at the annual town meeting, a debt exclusion article for the Public Safety Committee complex.
I didn't hear the last part of that. For what?
For debt exclusion for the Public Safety complex.
You're going to put a maximum dollar amount on that? Well, you have to.
I know I have to.
May I interject for a second?
Go ahead, interject.
2 things. Number 1, this Thursday, there's a joint meeting between the Board of Selectmen, the Finance Committee, and the Capital Improvement Committee. With all capital requests, including debt exclusions, the Capital Improvement Committee is required to weigh in on its decision. And they have made their recommendations, and this is one of their projects they recommend. But they'd actually have the opportunity to speak with the board on Thursday night. I know Ed will be here on Thursday night. And you'll have at least 4 out of 5 for a board decision. It's 2 days away, and it's something, it's one of those budget ideas as we move forward. The second thing is the fact that, yes, we would need to eventually put this on as an article, and we can say we're going to put it on as an article, and we can come up with the language in the next week or so. But that wouldn't preclude the public safety complex from holding public hearings and talking about what it is. Generally, like anything else, you go with the maximum potential cost of what something would be, and if it comes in less, that's great. So if they start saying, okay, it looks like our current presentation's 10.8, and that's what they present, with the possibility of it being less when we get closer to doing our article in the next week or so, and the board may say at that point with finance and capital improvement that, hey, we need it at 10, or maybe it really needs to come in at 10.5, they modify at that point. But if you put the decision until Thursday, when you have the Finance Committee and Capital Improvement here, and you guys can make a joint decision and a vote from 3 boards and committees at the same time, it might be stronger, and also might provide the opportunity for any new information today to be filtered by everyone, and also just the fact that everyone would be together and united on the front.
Meeting's posted appropriately for the Thursday?
The meeting is posted on Thursday for all discussions related to the budget.
Okay.
And all financial
So that would cover this.
pieces, yes.
Can I ask a question? Town moderator brought up a suggestion of putting it off, but what does that do to our time frame? Where's Charlie? No.
2 days.
No, till September is when he was saying if we wanted to have a special town meeting. That seems a long time off.
I don't think there's any need to put it off, I
I don't
think.
think
If you push this off to September, then chances are the engineering studies and stuff will be delayed,
Okay.
which means when we hit the spring construction season, we're not going to be ready to go out for bids.
Yeah, no, I agree. I just wanted to hear the answer.
Yeah.
Would you like?
Madam Chair, my motion's there. If she would like me to retract it, I shall. It's up to her.
You didn't put an amount
There's
on it.
There's no second, and there's no amount on it. If you want to retract it and wait till Thursday, I don't think that's a problem.
Okay, so I'll retract my motion at this time.
And we will discuss this on Thursday night with the Finance Committee and the Capital Improvement Committee. Thank you, everybody, for coming and listening so patiently.
We lost the Boy Scouts, by the way.
I know, I'm really upset about that. So we're going to move on now to our joint meeting with the Board of Health. Thank you for waiting so patiently in the front row. They would like to meet with us and voice some concerns.
Not sure exactly how it got on the, what the topic is on the agenda.
Me either.
The Boy Scouts are still here.
Oh, good. So,
Oh, okay.
wait, time out, wait. Would the Board of Health mind if the Boy Scouts came in and gave their presentation?
No, it's not.
Okay, thank you. So would someone please ask the Boy Scouts to come in? I'm
How
sorry.
can you say no to that, right?
We are going to move ahead to item 5.1, which is a discussion with the Council on Aging and the Boy Scouts. This item is on the agenda to discuss the current use of the senior center for community uses. In the past, the Girl Scouts have been allowed to utilize this room. At the beginning of February, the Council on Aging determined that a request by a local Boy Scout troop would be denied. The Boy Scouts would like to work with the town to find a location to meet. The library is too small. We have representatives from the Council on Aging and the Boy Scouts here to present. I would like to tell Mr. Ben McFadden and Mr. Toby Walunas, who I'm so happy to see here, if you could speak right into the microphone and make sure you say your first and last name. We are happy to hear what you have to say.
Hi, I'm Toby Walunas.
And I'm Ben McFadden. We are from the Southampton Pac 210. We are requesting the use of your senior center.
The days we would like the senior center is the first Monday of every month and the third Thursday of every month.
We would like to use it for our PAC and DEN meetings.
The things that we do for the community are
participating in the parade and in veteran service.
We attempted to raise saplings and give them away.
We organized a pasta supper and, with generous help from our community, raised $1,500 for families affected by Hurricane Sandy.
And finally, we've cleaned up trash around the whole town.
So we are here tonight for your approval, for us to use your senior center. If you let us use it, we will promise to take care of it and not be crazy in it.
What time would you like to use
Thank you
it?
for your time.
What time would you like
would
to
you like
use
to
it
use
on
it?
those nights? What time?
6 to 8.
6 to 8. Okay.
Is 8 o'clock kind of late for you guys?
No.
Maybe.
Thank you very much, boys. Now we're going to ask the seniors from the senior center to let us know, I guess, their reasoning behind not letting these nice, polite, young, respectful boys not use the space.
That's not, we don't want to put them on the spot. That's not really.
No, I would like to know the reason.
We are.
That's her job.
That's our job.
That's my job. Right. that's-
Not your, it's not you,
Okay.
it's us.
Well done, guys. Well, for me. First of all, Milda Cohen, 12 Montgomery Road. We have two other members from the board, Connie Barron, who's our chair, and Kathy Winkler, who is one of our new members. First of all, we're very surprised we're here because no one contacted us after we sent the letter saying we weren't granting the space. And the issue here is not the fact that we don't support the Boy Scouts. The center is primarily used for the seniors. It's set up for senior use. And so therefore, we based our decision on that.
So I guess my question is, if the Girl Scouts were allowed to use it, then why can't the Boy Scouts use it?
Well, we were overridden by, we were we came to the select board, and some of our board members were for, I was against, simply for the same reasons. And you guys said the Daisy Group should use it.
So has there been any
They
trouble?
left, what?
Has there been any trouble with the Girl Scouts using it?
No.
No
They left.
graffiti,
They
no
left of their
trash
own
in the
accord.
joint or anything like that?
They left because they were too big for the space.
Okay.
So it gave us an opportunity to revisit. The time that the Daisy Group came in, we only had one exercise equipment. We have two. We're hoping to get a third. Every space in that room is occupied. We have tables, we have chairs, we have exercise units where we store stuff. Everything that is in that room is for the seniors. We just don't feel that it's appropriate for kids.
Do you have any other activities in that area during the year?
In terms of other groups?
Any other activities go in the senior center? Anything that's not senior related?
No, because,
Do you have elections in that room?
well,
And in elections, do we have to move furniture around to put in voting booths?
right.
And so how many, so like maybe somewhere around 1,000 people will go through that room on election day, so
Right.
it is
And we
possible.
were not in favor of that. We had no choice, because when we originally got this space identified for senior use, we were told that the election should not take place at the school. So therefore, the Mondays of the elections, or the Tuesdays, or whatever the prep time, our senior center activities are curtailed. The other thing is that once those booths are in there, the following morning, where we have a 9 o'clock activity, those booths, if not removed, we have to work around it. So we're affected, and we weren't able to make a decision on that. You voted us.
Would you anticipate the Boy Scouts meeting on the first Monday and the third Thursday of each month? Are there currently activities that would need to be rescheduled?
I know that, let's see, we have the Women's Club, Mothers Club, Historical Society, and other events, speakers, old home days that either meet on a monthly or as needed basis.
But on the Mondays, the first Monday and the third Thursday, is
On
that?
that, I didn't look at the,
And would it be fair to say, Boy Scouts, that you might need to use tables and chairs?
Every once in a while, like when we use the school, we have to pull out a couple tables and like lunchroom tables and put down the chairs and stuff.
So it would be helpful that they were already in that room for you.
And what do the Boy Scouts do? Just regular activities?
Campfires.
When I was back, we built log cabins, but, that's just me.
What I did.
Hi, my name is Kathy Thibodeau. I'm from 16 Old County Road. I'm one of the den leaders. I lead the second grade scouts. They're a little younger, and they're hopefully sleeping by now. What we do at the meetings, some of the meetings are activities with the boys, where we have structured activities to be teaching them character and responsibility. So it could be learning outdoor skills, it could be learning civic skills, community service skills. Other times we're doing projects, we're making cards, or we're planning fundraising activities to be able to help out with the community service projects that they discussed. That's what we normally do on the first Monday, and the boys are broken into their small groups by age. On the third Thursday is when the families come together, and the pack is together as a whole, all ages working on an activity together. And that's when we do our big picture planning for our events that we'll be doing during the year, because the parents need to be more directly involved in those activities.
And have you looked at the senior center to see that it's big enough for your need?
Yes.
Okay.
it's one long hallway. I mean, we have no individual
Just checking to make sure they
offices.
don't come in and then say, forget it.
Yeah.
Make sure they
Well,
looked at it.
you know, the other part of this is that regardless of, I mean, we looked into the insurance side of this when Heather wasn't here at the time, and they expressed some concerns about using that space with population. a young population just because of some exposure. You know, they run around, and I'm not saying that that's what they're going to do, but, you know, sometimes you're playing
Wait a
around.
minute, I think we have one insurance policy for the whole building.
Let's say from that room to this one.
So you guys can't be in the building right now. What are you doing here?
So,
Okay.
so
Let me, go ahead, Nilda.
let's not get off track,
Right.
Mr. McDougal, because really, we're making a decision for the safety and also the purpose of that room is for seniors. And we feel that we've been more than good neighbors. We have accommodated other requests, and we really don't. Once the Daisy group left, we decided that we would not grant another request to any other age school children. And it was also, in fact, we are seriously looking into other activities for the senior center, and some of them may be at night. We had purchased a movie license so that we can offer films. We also would like to attract working women who might use it after work so that, you know, they're not aware of how much we're offering. So, you know, we're all getting old. I mean, our board has been doing this for over 20 years, and they're looking for the future too. So programming is very important.
So I guess the one thing that rings in my head is we're looking to the future, and those boys are going to be seniors in this town someday. And I really feel strongly that that room, if there's nothing going on in there and we haven't had any problems in the past, we should open the room to the Boy Scouts and let them use it. I really feel strong. They are really having a hard time finding somewhere to meet, and it does them a disservice, I think. And as long as you can tell me that the Daisies did not go in and paint all over your walls and didn't return furniture to the where it was and didn't destroy treadmills, I would be really discouraged if the Boy Scouts were going to go in and act that way.
Nobody has said that anyone did damage.
And I just
We're
can't
taking
figure out
into
why you
focus
would
the
not let them
intent
use
of-
the room.
We're taking into consideration the focus and the purpose of that room.
If
We
it's
have a
not
separate
used and there's
entrance, we have a
nobody in
security
it.
system. No other senior center, I've called Westfield, I've talked to Northampton, Easthampton, no one allows any groups into their senior space without staff there. For us to be giving keys and security system to other groups, this has nothing to do with the scope or judgment that these people will not be responsible. It is what should be done and why it was designed the way it was. If there was a separate partition where that room was divided and there was a separate door, make it a community room.
But there
that's
is a
not-
separate door, it's right there.
No, I'm talking about the space as it is now. If there was an intent for a community space to be used for the town, which the town needs, you know, we've been talking about this
We
for
have an
years.
old fire station.
I'm just thinking
I
the
guess my
same
feeling is
thing.
until which point there is a community center, until which point there is a room that anybody can use,
But
why can't we
what
just
about-
accommodate
What
it?
about the
question.
space, the rooms here?
And I would
mean,
say
at
if
one
there's
point-
room in this room and there's not a meeting going on any other night, I don't have any problems with the Boy Scouts using this
Wait a
room.
minute now.
Just don't sit, just,
Well,
right, there's always the chances of something going on in here on a Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, whatever night are much greater than something going on in the senior
Yeah,
center.
ask a question. These other groups that you let in there, they have the password, the key, all that stuff, so they're trustworthy.
but they're primarily seniors too, so the
But you said
executive
women's
board-
club and inviting more women in, and the Girl Scouts and the Mothers Club. That just has a theme of, you know,
Because that's the mission, the Executive Office of Elder Affairs supports and gives funding for program and services to seniors.
but a lot of these
Just like the
aren't seniors.
schools.
The women's club isn't
Serves the
senior.
kids.
Yeah, the women's
We
club is
couldn't
not
go-
a seniors.
Yeah,
that's a
the
women's
little
club, that's all
daisies aren't
ages,
seniors.
as long as you
I
don't
know,
have to
but in terms of the age group of that,
Matter of fact, I tried to go in and say hi once, and I was
Right,
told
so
I
here's
couldn't go in.
here's the situation. The Council on Aging has made a decision. The Board of Selectmen can either, A, decide to uphold that decision and say, I'm really sorry, boys, you can't use that room, or the Board of Selectmen can say, I think that given the circumstances, we will overrule your decision and allow the Boy Scouts to use the Council on Aging.
And all the Boy Scouts aren't taxpayers, their parents are, and we're all taxpayers here. And to me, it's at least on a trial basis until they prove otherwise, I would support letting them use it.
And I think the bottom line also is that the select board's in charge of the building.
The who?
Select board. We have responsibility for the building. We've had this discussion before, and
And I think it's wrong.
I know you think it's wrong.
I think it's
but
wrong because, you know, when that building, when we had problems with the furniture that we had to throw out, when we've had problems in terms of not being able to use the kitchen because it's not, because of the septic system and
you can't fix the septic system, it's what it is.
I know.
You can't put grease down. We can go talk about the grease trap again.
90% of what's in that area has been funded privately,
But this-
donations.
That's nice,
You
but
don't
this,
own that.
but
You
the
do
select board,
not own the
the select board,
physical-
Okay.
and I appreciate, the select board owns a building, and I don't want to do that and go this way, but I really have to override what you're saying, Nilda. I think that space is quite usable for the Boy Scouts, or any other civic group that wants to
You
use
could
it.
make that an argument for any, we could, would you have the school department or the library here if they were not able to accommodate a request? And that's really the difference, that at every turn, there is an occasion where this board decides to make a negative comment about the seniors.
I did not make a negative comment.
And they are upset. And also, they are stressed because they feel that they're not appreciated for what they do. And that's wrong.
So I'll take Mrs. Walunas' comment.
The thing, Tammy Walunas, 298 College Highway. The thing to remember is before this was Town Hall and before it was Senior Center, it was the Labrie School. And the Boy Scouts had a room in here.
Always
We
did.
had storage room, we had a place, and we, Boy Scouts, got kicked out when all the new stuff came in.
That's a true statement.
And we were left on the.
I remember bringing my kids downstairs.
I would accept a motion one way or another from the board at this point.
I'll make a motion, we allow the Boy Scouts to utilize the building, like coordinating with the senior centers, and the senior center reporting back whether there's any issues with it or not. If there's issues, we'll reconsider.
Well, I think our board has to meet again.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any other discussion? All those in favor of letting the Boy Scouts use the senior center?
Aye.
Thank you, Boyce. You did a great job.
But you gotta make sure you keep it up.
Behave yourselves in there, okay?
And thank you, and we didn't want it to turn into a bad scene.
No.
We understand.
I was under the impression that the purpose of the meeting was for the selectmen and the town hall, and the senior center to discuss the use of the room.
One minute, she's just talking.
And I don't want it to be a hostile situation where the Boy Scouts have caused this hostility. That was not our intent. We were denied. We followed the procedures we were asked to follow. We were denied. We went to look for other spaces available to us, and at that point, we were told by the town hall to please put it on the agenda so that the way the room decisions are made could be discussed. It was not, we did not want to come in here with a sledgehammer and say, you must allow the Boy Scouts in. I don't want to cause hostility.
I don't think that we feel that way at all. I don't think that's the intention of the Boy Scouts. I think they're looking for a space to use, and there is a space available.
We have a great deal of respect for the seniors in the town. We make cards at the holiday times. We send them desserts and things with our parties. I mean,
Well, I'll tell you what, can you do me one favor? If you go upstairs, there's a meeting room that oversees the front of the building. Go up to that room, take a minute, go up to that room, just take the stairs over here. Go up to the second floor, it should be unlocked. Walk in, take a minute now, go walk in, look at the space. If that's a big enough space for you, then we can use that space.
Okay.
So just go right upstairs now and take a
Right,
look at it.
we're willing to consider any solution. I appreciate
I mean,
everyone's time.
it's not, I don't want you to feel like you're causing a difficty. There's other things
Right,
going on here.
that is not our
Has-
intention.
No, it has nothing to do with you, it has to do with.
The town and the senior center make their decision, and we will
Yeah,
abide by
it's
it.
about perception, it's about the
And
select
that's
board
fine.
and other committees, but why don't you take a walk upstairs now and see if that space is okay for you?
If she's going to speak, I would
And
say
just
be
for the
respectful to
point
her.
of order, we did not chase the scouts out of the.
Absolutely not. Absolutely
And
not.
in fact, we were down in the basement in deplorable conditions, and nobody came to bail us out and say, gee, you guys need a better space.
Wait a minute, we did that.
Yeah.
I did that as a selectman. I'm sorry. That room is over there because I was a selectman.
I'm talking about the time we were down in the Larrabee level, lower, while the building was unoccupied.
I would like to hear what you say before we move on to the Board of Health.
With all the people using our space, could I send you the bill when we get the floor washed and waxed? It's like $1,000.
If I can send you a
Can I
bill for
send
the
you
heat
the
and
bill?
electricity.
We'll send you the bill for the heat and
If I can send you
electricity.
the bill for the heat and electricity.
Well, thanks a lot.
Well.
You really care about the seniors, don't you?
At this point, we're going to move on to the Board of Health. Thank you for
Take a
letting
walk
us skip
upstairs, let me
ahead.
know what the room looks like.
Absolutely. We've had meetings up there. Mrs. Broder McGinn.
Aren't you glad you waited?
Like to begin? Thank you.
All right, so I am here, as I warned you a couple of months ago, Lisa Broder McGann, Chair of the Board of Health.
I would just ask that if you have a side conversation, if you could move to the hallway so that we can keep moving. Go ahead.
Thank you. Chair of the Board of Health, I'm here because we want to hire a health agent. And I warned you a couple months ago that we were down another health agent. We had no clerk, we had nobody in that office, and told you that I'd be going through the various policies and procedures so that I could get more money to fund that position so that we could post that job and get a person to stay in there, as opposed to the cyclical hiring.
Should we close the door?
Maybe. Let me just wait.
No, keep
Okay,
going.
thank you. So I'm hoping tonight, what my goal is tonight, is that you all will vote to allow me to fund the position to the amount that I asked PPB and was approved for. And I can tell you the policies and procedures that I've done. And basically, I've ran in a big circle for 2 months, and I'm no further than I was 2 months ago when I started here. And I'm a little bit frustrated by the process. So, yes, ma'am.
Before you go forward, do you happen to have the PRF and the rescoring, just so I can have it in front of me to look at?
I don't know if I have another copy of it, but we
I won't
submitted
keep,
it
I won't keep it.
twice.
I know, and so
Okay.
I want to jog my memory because I'm pretty sure I was there for all.
And maybe just to recap, should I recap for the Board of Selectmen so they know where we are?
So
Yes,
the health agent has been a position.
Pardon?
The health agent has been a position for a number of years.
Yes.
And
Yes,
what
sir.
was it? What was its prior salary range? What
It was funded to the amount of approximately $26,500 a year.
And how
which
much
which is less than some of the clerks are making in this town.
And how much is like Montgomery? Because each town has one. How much is like Montgomery and Granby?
And just so that you know, and I'll give you this answer, but we have ad nauseum proved this to the PPB, went to the Finance Committee, and also went to the Special Finance Committee, presented all these numbers, and I'm shocked that it still hasn't gotten to this point where you all have voted on it. That's why I'm here tonight.
How much is the health agent paid in Granby?
I don't. Do you have the number?
Have that number? I just need I mean, I know how
If
much
I can-
certain people make. Thank you.
I was going to say,
Just, Dave.
if I can approach. Granby's makes $18.43 an hour, Greenfield $23 an hour, Montague $25, Southwick $31. I mean, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 towns here.
So how many hours a week is this? Average 24?
31 hours a week.
It says average 25.4 hours a week on your sheet here.
25.4 hours a
That's
week?
what it says here. That's what it says 25.4.
Well, can I see what you're looking at? Because I don't know what you're looking at.
This is the average hours for those positions that you just described in all the various towns.
No, this is the hours, this is the hours for various towns and average hours for other towns. That's not our position. Our position is 31 hours a week. Excuse me, yes, 31 hours a week.
31 hours.
Which has been approved by the PPB and
Was that
been through the process.
Was that like last year's or the year
No,
before?
it was just, the position was just rescored.
Right,
Was
so if I
rescored.
can just skip ahead, and then if you still feel you need to answer this question, I will answer all of your questions. I've been told that the policy is to start at PPB, then go to finance, then go to special finance, and then you all can vote. I went to PPB. There's supposedly a procedural for scoring that is done by this town and used by this town and has been implemented by this town. We did that. That scoring was reevaluated a month ago, is February 23rd, so that that job should be making $23.38 per hour. All right, that was substantiated by PPB. After that process, I went to finance, and I proved that this position can be funded by the money that we're making from that department. I was told I had to prove that. I did that. Then I went to the finance committee, the special finance committee, and proved it again. That was 3 weeks ago. I still haven't had permission to even post the job. So here's our problem. We're in violation of state law because I don't have a health agent in there. I've already lost one Board of Health member because he was unwilling to do the job. I told you that 2 months ago. I applied with all the rules and regulations, and here I am still begging to get money to post the job and hire somebody. So either it's our policy and procedure to start a PPB where they score the job and then go to finance, or it's not. And if it's not, then I should have started here to begin with. So I'm asking two things. What's the policy? If I was supposed to do all things, I did it. And if I'm not, I'm asking you to vote to give me the money so I can go hire somebody.
So here's the first thing. You did follow the policy.
I did.
You did follow the policy, and things went the right way. However, the PRF was not signed off on at the PQB meeting because the funding source was not clear, which I think we took care of at the special finance committee meeting. However, my concern is I have not seen where the increase over fiscal 14 and this year is $12,304 that you're asking us to fund a position at. I don't disagree with the scoring of the position. I do disagree with, it's unfortunate that at $26,000 a year, you can't retain someone. I get it. It's unfortunate. At $38,000 a year, you probably could, but that's just not the spot that we're at right now.
Okay, first of all, no, let me explain something. If you want fairness and equality in this town and you want to pay people pursuant to a PPB standard that you're going to implement, then you need to use it uniformly. That standard has provided that the town superintendent is making $86,000 a year. Our treasurer is making $48,000 a year. Our administrative assistant was making more money than our health agent for the town. So if we're going to have rules, we're going to follow them for everybody. So it's not fair at this moment in time that I go do all the things that I'm supposed to be doing and proving to people that I have the money within my budget, only to be told that at this time somebody, who I don't know whom, is not permitting me, to post the job. I couldn't even post this job in the newspaper because I didn't have permission from this board to do so. I filled out the form twice. Okay.
From this board?
What is it called?
PQB?
PQB.
The
PQB.
PQB's PRF form I filled out twice. Now there's a magic invisible line on there that I apparently didn't see that has to require me to put in what the funding for that job was. It's not on the form. Nobody told me I need to do that. 3 weeks later, I'm still saying, can I post the job?
Yes, PPB held on to this form for 3 weeks before we were told it was not filled out properly. They had it in their hands and they never told us.
I might disagree with that because we meet almost every week and sign off on papers every week.
It was given to her, it was given to them on the 12th of March.
Okay.
I did not find out until last week that the form was filled out. The Friday before last, so Tuesday is when I went and saw you guys. But that Friday before is when we found out that the form was filled out wrong.
Well, when there wasn't a motion made to sign that paper, there is an email trail that immediately emailed the Board of Health to say it wasn't signed, so.
It is signed.
They had it for 3 weeks.
And that was 3 weeks after the
If we didn't have a meeting, if there wasn't a meeting scheduled for 3 weeks, I get what you're saying. I'm just trying to figure out where $12,304 is going to come from.
I can tell you where it's going to come from. If you were at the Finance Committee meeting, which I've been to now 4 times in 2 months, you would know that I am having money come into that budget that I can spend to fund the position. I explained it to the Finance Committee. I explained it to the Special Budget Committee. I spent hours doing it with all the paper. And then I came back to the town 2 days later and I said, can I find out where we are on this? And I heard nothing. Okay, now I'm hearing from you that your questions aren't answered, which is fine, but it would have been nice to have you either present at the meeting or for me to have known that I had to come to this board earlier to do whatever needs to be done so I can post this job and hire for this position.
Can I ask a question? So in Greenfield, the health agent makes $37,000 a year at 31 hours. It's a city, right? Greenfield's a city out with, water treatment plant and, all that kind of good stuff, sewer treatment plant, tons of restaurants.
You know
couple of
what?
schools.
Here, we can go through this again,
I just-
and I
I'm
have
just-
all night for this. So let
I
me
just-
explain,
I'm
let me,
just-
expl- no, 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 let me explain something.
I just wanna know-
Greenfield also has, and I'm glad you asked that question.
I'm just asking.
Greenfield, no, 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 I'm going to answer your question.
I didn't ask a
Greenfield
question
also
yet.
has as many restaurants as we do.
I didn't ask
Where's
a
the
question
list of
yet.
all the,
Hey. Yeah.
Right.
We already
Where's
have
the
a
list of
score.
all the-
It's irrelevant.
I need to know I don't know.
But
I'm
this
just-
is what they
Water
scored.
we do.
So that's what's relevant.
Okay,
Right,
that's
so-
fine, I didn't.
No, I'd like to know what's relevant so that I can comply with what this town is asking for. One of my reasons for being here
Hold on a
tonight
second. It looks
is to
like
figure
PQ
out what it is you all need.
Right, it looks
so I
like
can do our
PQB
job.
scored it, and it's 2398. So my question is, where's the paperwork?
Yes. Okay.
Not signed,
By who?
but it's not, the PCF is not signed because there isn't one. The PRF, to post the job, is not signed because the Finance Committee liaison to the PQB did not think the funding source was specific.
But it sounds like you've already told them how many times.
So why didn't they tell me when I was sitting in the room?
It's my
that the
first time
funding
hearing,
source
so
isn't specific?
I'm just,
And why didn't they tell me when I went to PPB and finance twice that I need the PRF form and the invisible line that's not apparent on the form as to what the funding source is?
Can I ask one question? When we were at the last meeting and we had talked about splitting the position into two, and when we did that, the increase was only about $1,200. So when you split the position into 10 hours at $17 an hour and 21 hours at at 24, that puts the increase to the budget only at about $1,200. And at that point, I thought we were okay. I thought we were.
We split the position into two.
Okay, I was under the assumption, and I think everybody else in the room was, that that was the direction we were going to go.
I said, we didn't know what we were gonna do, we didn't know if we were gonna do one agent or split it into two. Those were two options that we were.
Okay,
Let me
so
step
at this
back
point,
and
we're
repeat.
not interested in splitting the position.
Let me step back and repeat, which I've said now 3 times in 3 different open meetings. It is my desire greatly to get this job funded to a level that it needs to be so that we can hire a qualified person. It is my desire to post it so that we can get as many qualified applicants come in and we can look at what it is we have as a pool of applicants. I did not want to do the posting and spend the money on the newspaper until it's posted at a rate that I can attract people. Once we have done that, we can take the pool of people and we may be able to manipulate it to say, maybe this is better for 2 people, maybe it's better for 1 person. I can't do that with an imaginary pool of people without knowing how much money I have in my budget to work with.
But the rule says that you can't post a job, one job, and hire for it, and then split the position into 2. You have to then, then repost the job into 2.
I'll comply with that rule, and I resubmitted it, and it says 1 person at X amount of dollars or 2 people at X amount of dollars. And then I resubmitted it, and I still don't have permission to post the job.
I didn't see that one.
It was resubmitted last week, it was resubmitted on Wednesday.
So I just want to hire somebody, for God's sakes. It shouldn't take an act of Congress to do so.
It's on the Monday agenda.
The 13th, yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
that's
so
why I
here, I'm going to
haven't
make it really easy. So I'm asking for permission tonight to hire somebody at the rate that this town said, the policy that you're going to be looking at for approval of rates, I've been through. All I'm asking you is for you to give me the 31 hours, let me publish it for the $23.98 that I've already got permitted for by the PPB, and allow me to post the position. I'm asking for your vote tonight. If you tell me no, then tomorrow I will have an emergency meeting and I will hire somebody, and I absolutely guarantee you it's going to cost you more than it's going to cost you if you allow me to post it and do it without hiring an emergency person. These will be temporary hires.
Nice threat.
No, it's
So
not.
let's-
It's not a
let's
threat.
work-
No, let me
I
explain.
take it as a
No,
threat.
it's not a threat. What is a threat is that this town is
Listen,
not a.
you've had enough time. I'm
This-
going to talk right
this
now.
town is-
I'm going to talk right now. No, yes, I am. Let me talk for 1 second. I've sat here, I've sat here and listened to this, unaware of any of this. I've always wanted to just come to a conclusion and a solution.
That's great.
What you're saying is that this person that you want to hire at $38,000.
I don't have a person. No, and it's not $38,000.
Well, it's 31 hours, right?
No, it's
Times $23.
$23.98 times 31, and the math was given to finance on a document, and the number is 35,000.
Because 52 weeks come out to...
But 31 times $23.98 is $38,804.43.
Well, I think they said 30 at finance, the
The
number that they used.
paper says $23.98. The
Yeah,
sworn-
23.98.
So all I want to know is
I'm
what
not
the total.
disputing that. What I'm saying is when I went to finance, they told me they had to use 30 instead of 31 for calculations. So when we did the math at finance, the number came out to a 35,000.
But you're not going
So
to
it's-
pay somebody, you can say 30, but you're paying for 31, and 31 is 38,000.
Liz, may I?
Sure.
Thank you. So, yes, you're right, it is 38,000 some change. So at the last special finance committee meeting that Shelley was at, the finance committee was at, myself, Liz, Donna, and Vicky were at, because we were meeting for finance team, we actually discussed or talked with Shelley about what an option would be here. One of our biggest containment factors is the fact that we only have so much funds to give. One of the compromises that actually was created in this meeting is Liz had said, well, what if we compromise here? We can't give you another $5,000 or $6,000. I understand you might bring in more revenues, but the problem is not all departments are revenue generating. So you have to be able to compensate at the end of the day for those that don't bring in revenues, because let's face it, at the end of the day, there's some departments, regardless what you do, they're a supportive thing. Accountant's office does not bring in any revenues, but their costs may continue to increase over the years, so we have to find a way to compensate for that. What you do is, yes, we can give more funds. I think what we came up with a compromise last week was when talking to Shelley, she had suggested, there's a couple different ways to do it, whether you have one person or whether you split the position into two pieces. So the first compromise the group made is we said, okay, for next fiscal year, to make life easier, we will put both the wages for the administrative assistant and the health agent salary into one combined line, so that there's more flexibility for the Board of Health. They can hire one person, they can hire 6 people, but all the funds are in one line. The next thing Liz said is, well, you know what, I think it would be a great idea if we do give them a little more funds. So I think it came up to about 2,000 and some change additional. At that point, the calculation that Shelley had predicted and provided us that we used as a base number was 21 hours at $21 a week and $17 an hour at 10 hours a week. So that would give you a person in the field, and that would give you someone in the office. That was the initial numbers we calculated.
No, it was 21 hours.
hours for $24.
Yes.
10
Okay.
hours.
At 17.
I'm sorry, I stand corrected. So $24 an hour at 21 hours and $17 an hour at 10 hours. But regardless, that essentially was the cap. That is, you can do it however you want. You can pay $24 an hour. We are not disputing the fact that the PPB came up with the scale $24 an hour. However, every department is required by Mass General laws to operate within their budget. If you were given $10 and each one of those hours is spent at $1 an hour, that's a maximum 10 hours. If you want to pay the person $2 an hour, that's 5 hours. So if the Board of Health would like to proceed with paying someone for $24 an hour, that's not a problem. But they have to go within the budget they have. So next year, I think the compromise was, no, we can't do $38,000, but I think it was $35,128, give or take. And if that's being the number, then yes, you can hire someone at $24 an hour, but you have to limit the hours to that amount. And that's a compromise. Yes, we can pay someone more, but they'd have to work less hours at that point to be able to stay within the budget. The other thing to keep in mind is we're a small town, so yes, maybe someone says, hey, that's still not that much money at $35,000, but a lot of towns in this area who have health agents work in one department Monday through Thursday and work in another part-time Thursday and Friday to make up the difference. Thank you.
We were asked at one of the meetings to support the money of the $35,000, what our department can bring in. We actually proved that. The Finance Committee actually agreed that we proved that, and we actually proved more than that. So we should have plenty of money in our budget to support that increase, and even more. We're even bringing more money than that in.
Yeah, if we're talking about two different budgets. We're talking about current budget, which I understand we have to work within, which I believe we can still do. That's not the issue. The other issue is what our budget allocations is for next year. That's the whole purpose that I went to the Special Finance Committee, because I said 2 months ago that it's not working funding this job to the level that it's at. That's why that office is empty and has been for 3 years. So it's not working. So we need to do something and fix it. If you look at what the rest of the town heads are making, that office is making half of what other department heads are making. It's not justifiable. It needs to be fixed.
So I would say that the process is, it gets signed off, and it goes in a certain order, and that is the process. If this is meant to be, and it is on the agenda for Monday afternoon, I would say that it needs to wait to follow the right process. I don't feel comfortable saying tonight that I'm going to override all the other boards.
Well, first of all, what happened after the Special Finance Committee meeting that I went to 3 weeks ago? Did it ever come to the Board of Selectmen's attention? So I don't understand why you're asking me to go through these things that you all don't ever hear.
Because the PRF was not signed off on that, at that finance meeting. So if it doesn't get signed off by them, then it doesn't get to us.
Okay.
If it doesn't get signed off at the PQB, then it doesn't get to finance, and it doesn't get to us.
And does this board care that that office is empty? That's what I'm here for.
Of course. yeah.
Okay. So do we want to fix it tonight, or do you want me to continue to go through the processes?
I think waiting until Monday, as long as the right people are there, and it sounds like, to me, a bureaucracy
crazy.
gone wild here with the paperwork. So if the right people can get to the meeting on Monday, I think everybody should sit down, sign the paperwork, and get it done with.
Right, and it's still not solving the problem. All we're saying you're allowing me to do is post the position, which you still haven't, this body hasn't decided if you're going to fund the position. So my problem is still not solved. So waiting till Monday doesn't make a difference, because I still don't have my problem solved. I can't post the position and attract candidates. So if you don't do what I need to have done tonight, I need to hire a temporary person, and then I don't care how long the process takes.
You just said that you had enough money in your budget for the rest of the year.
For a temporary person, right, I want to post and attract somebody to this town that will stay.
Yep.
That's what I want to do.
Yeah, tell me if I'm wrong, but Bree left in like double the salary in Greenfield?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. You know, we're building a $9 million police complex. We built a new library, but then we couldn't afford librarians and had to close it half of the time. Wages should come before physical structure, and wages should be fair. And until they are, we're not going to have people working for us. That office is important. I need this board to recognize that, and I need to stop being run around in circles. I mean, all I'm asking for is for you to hear all the evidence that I've presented and to make a decision so we can move forward. I'm prepared to put the work in. I need somebody to listen to me that has authoritative decision to say yes or no.
Are we breaking any rules if we allow her to advertise, but pending the decision?
Can I tell me where the rule is? Because I brought all the rules with me and it's not written anywhere.
It's not in the bylaw.
No, it's not in the bylaw, and it's not in the other policies, which I reread tonight. So what rule are we breaking?
I would go with past practice.
Okay, so there is no rule. That's the answer. There is no rule you're breaking tonight to give me what I want. I've put the work in, I've done the homework, and I've proved in front of every person I've been in front of that this needs to happen. I'm asking you guys to do it. Please, I'm begging you, please. Give me the authority to post this job at what PPB, which is our policy, has said that is appropriate for that, and give me the funding for next year.
Well, we can't give you the funding tonight for next
I mean,
year.
PPB.
Well, then let me post it.
Yeah, PPB has established a rate, $23.98, and if she's just asking to post it, again, she's taking a chance that something goes wrong on Monday. I mean, I don't have an issue with just the posting end of it, to get the process going, because it sounds like there's a bunch of running around here.
Because I'm running in circles. And the form,
Yeah, paperwork seems to be messed
guys,
up.
this job is being funded at a rate less than clerks are making in this town.
Have we,
What's the situation?
For 3 years?
So it's not really an emergency, it's been going on for 3 years.
I've been trying to fix this for 3 years, and I'll tell you that,
I'm trying to help you.
Go ahead.
So either I get a chance to talk or I don't talk.
Go ahead.
So, I mean, I've listened to what you had to say. A lot of some blindsided because I didn't know about it. But it seems like if you're going to threaten to just go out and hire somebody and just go do that, I think there are policies set up to do, and I think waiting until Monday to do so is appropriate.
okay, great.
All right, thank you.
Is that a vote? Well, I would
No, it's not a vote, that's one opinion. I just don't like being threatened in open meeting that you're going to do something that I know nothing about.
If I could be heard on one more point that I think you all should know about, we're in violation of state laws and other regulations because we don't have an employee in that office. We've been in violation.
You've been in violation for 3 years.
Yeah, multiple times for 3 years.
Okay.
Multiple times.
But you're head of that, you're chair of that department. That's your responsibility, that you've been in violation.
And the state law is that you guys do whatever you want. I've been down this road with the health department before. You guys can do whatever you want in that department. We fund you. You have autonomy. You can't put your responsibility that you abdicated for the past 3 years on us.
Actually,
That's your
I can, and I am. I'm doing it
Go
tonight.
ahead, right ahead,
Because
and
if
I'm
you
turning
don't
it back on
fund,
you.
if you don't fund that position,
I'm
you
not
might
saying
as
we're
well
not
tie both of my hands and send me out on College Highway, because you're not allowing me to hire a person to do that job. That's what you're doing tonight. I've been here multiple times saying the same thing. I don't think I need to say anything else. Either you want to help us do our job, or you don't. It's as simple as that. And there's no way you should be blindsided by this, because I was here 2 months ago to say that this process was going to start. I've spent probably 10 hours in 2 months educating the necessary people that this board has asked me to educate. If you are blindsided by it, when your administrator's been in all of those meetings, it's not my fault.
I can't sit here and tell you that we can fund that position next year. I 100% agree with what Heather said in the dollar amount that we came up with at the last meeting and being able to fund the position within that amount. I don't feel comfortable saying that I will override all the other committees and their function tonight. I don't feel comfortable saying that.
How are we overriding the committee by allowing them to
If
post?
the past practice has been to have a PRF signed off by Finance Committee, PQB, and then it comes to the Board of Selectmen, if the policy or past practice has been to have a PCF signed off by all the boards and committees before it comes to us, then I think that's the policy that needs to be continued. And I know, I understand that you're frustrated because those committees have said no in the past, but if they say no to other people, you have to go back to the beginning. That's just how it goes.
They haven't said no.
They haven't signed it, so in essence, they said no.
When I'm present, there's not a no. It's okay, we're moving forward. And then 3 weeks later, I hear a reason why it hasn't been done.
If it's not
So
signed,
I
then
still-
they said no.
Okay, so then I'm here. And ultimately, if it's your decision, it's your decision. Okay, so if you want to pull apart the information that I give to PPB and Finance and ask me to regurgitate it because you are autonomous and you get to make decisions autonomously, then I'm giving you the opportunity to do that tonight. And I'm here to answer any questions that I've already answered to all these other boards. So just so I understand, because Finance wouldn't sign the form that I've submitted twice is the basis that the board, at this point, won't allow me to post the job?
Yes.
That's my basis.
Okay.
That's the reason.
I disagree. I would support it, but it doesn't sound like we're going anywhere. It seems like a lot of paperwork. Seems like a lot of committees shuffle paperwork, and because committees meet as volunteers, it gets big delays, and the end of the line is you're taking the brunt of it. So I would be fine with, I'll make a motion that we allow them to post the position pending the outcome of the meeting on Monday, and you guys can go from there.
Is there a second to the motion?
So I tried.
Hearing none, the motion fails.
Well, a comment on that is it would allow us to wait till Monday so that we wouldn't have to come back here again. So that Monday, if they voted, we could move forward, as opposed to waiting for this to be going around in a circle again, which serves no legitimate purpose.
So I make a motion, if they're okay at Monday, post on Tuesday.
You missed a whole weekend.
And skip Finance,
Well, is it Finance that's meeting on Monday?
PQB.
PQB. So who has to sign off on the document?
PQB, Finance, and Board of Selectmen.
And the reason it didn't happen is for what? They just didn't sign it, or was there a reason?
The PRF was not signed at the PQB meeting because the liaison from the Finance Committee said that there was a missing piece, i.e. the funding source.
But there is
After meeting with Shelley at the Finance Committee meeting and having the conversation.
Chair of Finance.
Amanda Kemp, who was not at the meeting. After having a conversation with Shelley, I think we were all under the impression that it was the PRFs were going to be resubmitted so that there could be two positions within that salary range.
When does Finance meet?
PPR was submitted with either two part-time positions, two.
But resubmitted nonetheless.
Or
But resubmitted nonetheless. And so now it's resubmitted for the PQB
All we
to
can
meet
do,
on
all we
Monday.
can do at this meeting, the most we can do to respect PQB and Finance to say is, and the motion would be is to okay the position to be posted, if it's okay with PQB and finance, because if they had concerns, we have to respect their concerns as well, and that would be my motion.
Do we know when finance is meeting next?
That was me.
That's what I was asking, if you just call the chair and see if it's gonna be on the agenda, if you call Amanda. Amanda, if you listen, can you call us? That's all we can do. We have to, they have
Should
a
be on the
process they
town
have to go
website,
through.
too.
I have no control over them. So if you wanna just, we'll make that's my motion, that it's okay by us. You don't have to come back to us, but just square it with PQB and finance. They're okay with it.
And bypass us.
And just, she doesn't have to come back. If it's okay with them, it's okay with us.
So there's another motion on the table. Is there a second?
If that's the best we can do, I'll second it.
The finance, I think that the finance committee is meeting, if you can ask Heather, on Tuesday at 1:45.
So you mean Monday's PPV and Tuesday is?
Yeah, you don't have to come
And
back to us. Just do whatever you gotta do.
If they say okay, then we're all ready to go.
How's that sound?
That's the motion. Is there a second?
I second it.
You want me to call Randall, see if I can get Amanda? Does it have to
Today's
be on?
Tuesday. If there's not a meeting on Tuesday, the 14th, we could ask them to hold a special meeting.
I just feel like we keep dragging our feet here.
Well, give me a second.
I can't wait another week to maybe hope that somebody signs a form.
Well, you have our okay, so once they sign it, it's fine.
If there's no meeting next Tuesday and you get a hold of them tomorrow morning, maybe they could have one Monday. Post it, have a special meeting Monday.
Well, there's a motion and a second. Would you like to vote?
Yes.
Pending approval by Finance Committee and the PQB,
Be approved.
the PRF could be posted immediately
Randall.
without the Board of Selectmen's approval.
Randall? Hey, it's McDougal, how you doing? Hey, this is Dr.
Favor?
This is Dave McDougal, how you doing?
That's for the vote.
There's a motion and a
Is
second.
Amanda there?
All those in favor?
Don't wake her
Aye.
up. I was just curious when they're gonna be
All
in
those
finance.
in favor?
Aye.
And I vote no.
Don't wake her up.
But it
We'll-
passes
we can
2 to
talk
1,
tomorrow, all right?
And I will find out
All right,
for
thanks,
you
Randall. Take care.
when the
Bye.
Finance Committee is meeting.
So I have a final question.
Sure.
It still doesn't solve the ultimate problem which is, I asked the special finance committee, not the regular finance committee, the special finance committee, when it is this body's gonna make a decision about our request for additional funding. I was told
The 24th.
I was told the 24th, so now I still don't have a decision, so.
The
can you
24th
tell
of
me-
what?
We were told that we would know a decision for the fiscal year of 2016 on March 24th.
Well, that's almost impossible because they
That's what
haven't
we're told.
finished, they haven't been.
told this
We got
information.
that meeting and we were told that we would know,
That would mean there's a balanced budget by March 24th, and there's not.
We were told we would have a definite answer on the 24th, which is the last Board of Selectmen meeting, and then from there we could go ahead and post.
The Board of Selectmen
But
hasn't even
that's not how-
discussed budgets.
Okay, so let me just ask you, when will this body hear our request to have the additional funding that was approved by the PPB? That's a separate distinct issue. Can you tell me that?
This board meets with Finance Committee and the Capital Improvement Committee on Thursday night at 6 o'clock to begin the budget conversations, to take all of the information that the Special Finance Committee, the Finance Committee, the CIC group have all put together, because we've asked them to present us with budgets. So we've asked them to look at all of that, and the first time that the whole board is going to see it is Thursday night at 6 o'clock.
So is that other entity going to be making a recommendation to you in paper form? Because I'd like to see whether or not my request is in recommendation form from the special finance to hear.
I would assume that your request is in paper form.
Okay, so who can I ask of that? I want to see it. I want to know what the special finance committee is doing. I came back 2 days after that meeting to say, what is the consensus? Can I answer any questions? Where are you going with this?
Their initial round of conversations with departments was to gather all of the information. At that point, once they've done that with every department and committee, they've gotten back together during meetings every single day to say, where can we go with this? This is what we've heard, this is the information that we have, what can we fund? And then they change the numbers. They're changing the numbers so that they can present to the Board of Selectmen a balanced budget that says, this is what we heard, this is what we recommend, and what would the Board of Selectmen like to do? That's what will happen on Thursday.
In the budget you submitted for next fiscal year, how much did you put in for the health agent?
$24 an hour, $31.
Okay, so that is in your,
$38,000.
that is in your request. Okay, so it's a placeholder in there, okay.
Yes.
That's the important part.
Thursday at 6 o'clock.
So is there anything else I can do to educate anybody who's making this decision, or do I have to come back here when you all are making the decision?
About what?
I wouldn't think it was a bad idea to come back when we're making the decision, but, I mean,
The budget's, it's an ongoing
We
thing.
only have a certain amount of money, and it has to go to an entire town, and although I understand the need, I can't sit here and say, yes, we're gonna give you an extra $12,000. I can't say that right now.
I think
You
they,
can't underfund a job to the detriment of that office. You just can't do it.
So my
It's not
suggestion would
fair.
be to make sure that if
We do that all the time.
if you want to be present for that conversation, we start those conversations on Thursday at 6 o'clock. Now, I can't guarantee,
So I could just hang out until.
well, I can't guarantee you that we're gonna get to every board and department on
But I mean, it's
Thursday.
part of the process, it's for all the departments, and all the departments are in the same spot. and-
So I would ask that if you all could, when you get to that, if I could get a heads up so that I could be present.
yeah. I'll remember the amount in the budget, don't worry.
Thank you.
Yeah,
All right.
Thank you.
thanks. Take a 3-minute break?
We're going to take a 5-minute break and re-adjourn at 8:55 sharp.